we wrote out the sharp major scales on a list starting from different roots. When we wrote out the sharp major scales, we used the pattern whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. 2 whole steps and a half step, 3 whole steps and a half step, in order to create our major scale pattern. We discovered that when we did this, starting from different roots, we had to use sharps in order to create that pattern between notes, that pattern of whole steps and half steps that create the major scale. We started at the key of C major. If you remember, when we start from C major and we use our whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern, major scale pattern, we end up not having to use any sharps. So that key signature has no sharps in it. Then we went to the 5th of that, which happened to be G major, and you went to the 5th of that because I said so, right? We didn't have any rhyme or reason yet. And the music gods actually told me to do it, right? So I'm passing that along to you. The 5th of C, C, D, E, F, G, was G major. So the second one on your list, the second scale on your list, started from the note G. And you found that when you went whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, you had to use an F sharp in that key to create that whole step between 6 and 7. So you added a sharp to number 7 of the key, which in the key of G is F sharp. Number 7 comes right before 1. So the first sharp that we added on our list is F sharp. Then we went to the 5th of G because the music gods told me to do that, and then I told you to do that. So the 5th of G was D. So the third one on your list was D major, and you can follow along with me. Now when you started from D and you went 2 wholes and a half, 3 wholes and a half, you found that you still had an F sharp in that key. And then you had to add a new sharp to create that whole step between 6 and 7, and that was a C sharp. Right? So you added a new sharp again to the 7th degree, just like in G major. So in G major, we had 1 sharp, that F sharp at number 7. Then in D major, the F sharp stayed, and we added a C sharp to create our pattern, right? Okay, then we went to the 5th of D because the music gods told me, and I'm telling you. So we went to the 5th of D for our 4th scale down the list. And we found the key of A. We found that when we went whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half from the note A, we still had an F sharp and a C sharp in that key. So they've been added, and now they've stayed. And we add a new sharp. You guessed it, to number 7, to the letter that comes right before number 1. Number 1 in the key of A is A. Number 7 in the key of A is G. So that new sharp that we added created that whole step between 6 and 7. We added the new one to the 7th degree. In the case of A, that's G sharp. So the key of G sharp has these 3 sharps, F, C, and G. Okay, then we went to the 5th of A because the music gods told me, and I'm telling you. The 5th of A happened to be E. A, B, C sharp, D, E. That's the 5th. Notice I put my thumb up for A. A is not 0, A is 1. A, B, C sharp, D, E. So the key of E major is our next key. And when we start from E and we use our whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern to create the major scale from E, we end up having to use sharps to create that pattern. We see that we still have an F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp in that key of E, and we add a new one. You guessed it, creating the whole step between 6 and 7. So we added a new sharp at number 7 in the key of E. Number 7 comes right before 1. So think about the letter that comes before E. Okay, because E is number 1 in the key of E. So the letter that comes before E is D sharp. That's the newest sharp added. So it and all that came before it are sharp in the key of E. Because once we add a sharp on our list, it stays. Now you're starting to see why we kept going to the 5th on our list. why the music gods told us to do that, and then why I told you to do that. So you can see that pattern of adding a sharp each time as we go down the list. Okay, we went to the fifth of E, which was B. And when we started at B and we do our 2 holes and a half, 3 holes and a half pattern, we have all of these sharps still. They still exist. And now they're in the key of B, right? They have to be there in order to create those whole steps and half steps that make up the B major scale. And then we add a new one, you guessed it, to number 7 in the key of B to create that whole step between 6 and 7. So number 7 in the key of B comes right before B, right? It's the letter that comes before B. So the letter that comes before B is A sharp. So we know that it and all that came before it are sharp in the key of B. Then we went to the fifth of B because the music god said so, and so I told you. And the fifth of B, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, is F sharp major, not F major, F sharp major. Okay? When we started from F sharp and we go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, we have all of these sharps still. Okay? We find out that we have all of those sharps, and we add a new one, creating the whole step between 6 and 7. Okay? So the new sharp, again, is added to the 7th degree. 7th degree in the key of F sharp is the letter that comes before F sharp, which of course is E. In this case, it's an E sharp in the key of F sharp. Okay, remember, not an F, it's an E sharp. Okay, fat cats go down alleys eating. Well, we'll get to that in a second. So all of these are sharp in the key of F sharp. So it, number 7, and all that came before it are sharp in the key of F sharp. Then we go to the 5th of F sharp, which we find out is C sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp. C sharp is the last sharp scale on that list that you wrote out. We start writing it out from C sharp using whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. We end up using all of these sharps that we had added previously and a new one to number 7, creating the whole step between 6 and 7. And that new sharp is the letter that comes right before the key that you're in. In this case, it's C sharp, so the letter that comes before C is B. B sharp is the newest sharp added. So it and all that came before it are sharp. So the key of C sharp, they're all sharp. Okay? All right, so next, we're going to go over how to write key signatures when you're given a major scale. So you're going to have to do the calculation in your head. What are the sharps in this key? And then write them down. Okay?